The branch launch and networking reception for InvestTC took place on Wednesday, March 22nd. It's been 2 years since the opening of InvestTC. CEO John Rutherford said that last night's launch was about highlighting the rebranded InvestTC and to mark the end of a full operational year for the unit. Rutherford opened up about the newly branded InvestTC and the reason for rebranding.
Why did we do it? We had a brand before, we had a very nice image. But we didn't have a backstory. We didn't have a story about why we have this brand, what we're working to, what our beliefs are.
When persons think or speak about the economy of the Turks and Caicos, there's always a sharp focus on tourism. And rightfully so, because tourism, we know, hotels and accommodations and restaurants account for directly 39% of our GDP.
Why are we here today? Why are we talking about financial services? Because it is critical. Should we grow this sector? Yes, we must.
TCI is embarking on a new investment policy. And thanks to the hard work of the Invest TCI, we have been looking at it over and over because we want to make sure the policy is properly informed by the people who will have to use it.
We have our strapline where inspiration becomes reality. And this is all about what we are trying to do as an agency, to take ideas, to work with people who have ideas, and then take it through to the goal of delivering that and having something tangible at the end of it.
Really and truly, it's because of the passion that the entire Invest TCI team brings to the table. Passion fuels purpose.
That vision stands stronger than ever. We've spent a decade elevating impact and accelerating growth.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third annual general meeting of Invest TCI. I now call this meeting to order. Let us begin by inviting Ms. Judith Guerrero to lead us in prayer.
Let us stand as we pray. Thank you. Dear Heavenly Father, We thank you, God, for allowing us to congregate here together. Our hearts are open. We know, Lord, that everything that is good, all opportunities come from you. Lord, I want to thank you for Invest Turks and Caicos, for the vision that you have instilled in it, for its leaders, for its staff, for the community that we serve. Lord, I ask you for provision of purpose, of wisdom. I ask, Lord, that you cover this meeting this evening. And Lord, let it not just be about plans and numbers, but let it be about the people and the community that we actually serve. I ask, Lord, that you bless each and every person that is in this room this evening, our leaders, our partners, our businesses, our entrepreneurs, as well as the hands of those who helped bring this all together. Lord, we know that you are God and there is no one like you. We ask that you meet us where we are, and we thank you, Lord. We honor you. It's in your mighty name that we pray. Amen.
Please remain standing while Ms. Krishana Williams honor our country with the singing of the national song. God save our gracious King, long live our noble King. God save the King. Send him victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the King. We salute this land of ours, our country we declare, this promised land with its beauties grand, though small it is our own. Turks and Caicos, Turks and Caicos, our country firm and free. Our allegiance, Turks and Caicos, we pledge and we affirm. Our people forged and blend with multiplicity of race and kind and creed and tongue, united by our goals. From the east, west, north, and south, our banks and oceans meet, surrounding sands and hills of glee, our pristine beauty seas. Turks and Caicos, Turks and Caicos, our country firm and free. Our allegiance, Turks and Caicos, we pledge and we affirm. We stand with courage brave to maintain this land of ours, with islands scattered here and there. With trust in God we stand. Turks and Caicos, Turks and Caicos, our country firm and free. Our allegiance, Turks and Caicos, we pledge and we affirm. Thank you.
Thank you.
You may be seated. A special good evening to Her Excellency Acting Governor Mrs. Anya Williams, Premier and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Charles Washington Mizik, and First Lady Delthea Russell Mizik, Ministers of Government,
the Honorable Rondalee Brathwaite Knowles, Attorney General, and other government officials, our stakeholders and partners, my fellow board members, the staff of Invest Turks and Caicos, and distinguished guests. It is a distinct honor to welcome you to our third annual general meeting and to acknowledge the successful 10 years of the operation of the Invest Turks and Caicos Agency. Happy 10th year anniversary, Invest Turks and Caicos. A decade ago, this agency was created with a clear purpose: to attract sustainable investment that would strengthen our economy and open new doors for our people. In retrospect, it's evident that our journey has encompassed more than financial outcomes. It's been about fostering trust, opening doors to new opportunities, and shaping a shared future for everyone. Innovation for us is not a distant concept. It is the daily work of finding practical solutions to the challenges of small island life. It is a commitment to invest not only in projects but in people, because true progress is measured not just by what gets built, but by how our lives have improved. Over 10 years, we have seen remarkable milestones. Yes, there have been major developments that have reshaped our economy's landscape. But just as meaningful are the fishermen who are positioned to expand their business, the farmers now equipped to produce more of what we eat, and the people of our islands who have taken their first step into business with support from our MSME programs. Each one of these stories serve as a reminder that genuine progress is achievable and should benefit everyone. The real value of investment lies in the impact it makes today and the sustainability it secures tomorrow. Our task has never been simply to grow the economy. It has been to strengthen our resilience, safeguard our dignity, and ensure that growth is meaningful. That is why we have invested in food security, in sustainable tourism, and in local enterprise. These are not just initiatives. They are building blocks for the independence and prosperity of our nation. Of course, none of this happens in isolation. The government provides leadership and direction. Investors bring their ideas and capital. Business leaders contribute energy and courage, and our communities bring their hopes. When these forces align, the results are transformative. As we look towards the next horizon, we must be deliberate. The world around us is changing quickly, and so must we. That means supporting projects that are not only profitable, but purposeful. It means embracing technologies that connect and protect us, and it means measuring success not only by profit margins, but by the quality of life created here in these islands. Our responsibility is to ensure that every investment leaves behind a legacy with inheriting, one that creates jobs for our people, safeguards our environment, and open opportunities for generations to come. So tonight, I ask you to look ahead with courage, to choose progress not by chance, but by design, to keep our people at the center of everything we do. 10 years have shown us that vision and persistence can achieve much. The next 10 years will ask more of us, but I believe we are ready. Thank you. Please stand as we welcome the Premier, the Honorable Charles Washington Mizik, to the stand to bring remarks.
Please be seated. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good to see so many here this evening. And yes, it's 10 years since the reincarnation.
Yes.
I would like to say that because it used to be TC Invest, right, up until 29 or 10, thereabout. So it's been a reincarnation. And I'm proud that I've had the privilege to be at the forefront of both of those births. And so I'm happy to be able to celebrate with you today 10 years of existence. I think the protocol has been established. I'd like to just say my own welcome to you, recognizing all of you in your respective roles and places. I'm good to have my wife with me today. Excuse my attire, everybody's nicely dressed. I just came from work, so if I look a little ragged, it's just because I just came from behind the desk. So it is an honor to be here with you as we celebrate the 10th year anniversary of Invest Turks and Caicos. Over the past 10 years, Invest Turks and Caicos has been a catalyst for growth, attracting investment, supporting entrepreneurs, and contributing to the building of a more resilient economy. The results of our efforts are evident. Our economy is projected to grow by 5.4% in this current year, continuing the positive trajectory in recent years. We've seen historic levels of new foreign direct investment, and just at the moment, just this year alone, there's $1.27 billion worth of agreements that have been executed to date in this fiscal year. And that's will create 2,000 permanent jobs and add over 1,000 new rooms to our hospitality sector. These are not just numbers. They will support livelihoods, families, and futures. You'll forgive me if I mention some projects. I'm not going to mention all, but just as an example of some of the more recent investments. Among the hallmark investments that have reshaped our tourism landscape has been the opening of this very resort, the Ritz Carlton, in 2021, which brought the first global luxury brand to our shores and created hundreds of jobs for the country. In addition to that, in South Caicos, we've had the launch of Soltero, and I believe I see Michael here today. A Marriott Luxury Collection Resort, which opened in 2025, which has become a model for sustainability in the hospitality sector. Supporting the local fishing industry in South Caicos, funding youth and community programs, generating renewable solar energy, and helping restore our coral reefs. These projects show that major investments can be both profitable, socially and culturally and environmentally impactful for our communities. And while we welcome new investments, the Turks and Caicos Islands owe much of its modern economic foundation to the vision and commitment of early investors, many of you who are here in this room today, and thank you, who believed in the country's potential long before its global recognition. It was globally recognized as a premier destination. These pioneering investors established the first resorts, introduced international standards in hospitality, and laid the groundwork for tourism as the main economic driver. Many reinvested their profits locally, expanding their ventures, creating jobs, and contributing to infrastructure, healthcare, and community development. Their continued confidence in the Turks and Caicos has not only stimulated growth in real estate, construction, and financial services, but also strengthened the island's reputation as a stable, attractive, and high-value destination. Today, with the help of Turks and Caicos Invest, their legacy endures through thriving businesses, sustained empowerment, employment rather, and a lasting partnership in nation building. We are also deeply proud of the progress made by our local entrepreneurs. Since its inception in 2016, the MSME program has committed more than $8 million in benefits to 334 small businesses across these islands, with a record $2.47 million in support provided already in 2024-2025. Spanning tourism, transportation, and manufacturing, and more. Now, for those of you who've been around a long time, you know when the InvestTCI was reincarnated, so to speak, we had something called, was that CEP? CED? The Center for Entrepreneurial Development, in which the private sector was supposed to make contribution. That was disbanded after a couple of years because, unfortunately, our private sector partners did not step up to the plate. It's not too late. So we have witnessed inspiring stories, and I'll mention some of them, such as Island Mystique, which achieved support from the MSME program and the Accelerator Initiative. Once a small startup, it is now a thriving cultural luxury tourism brand working with local artisans from North Caicos and Grand Turk, having now secured a partnership with Almanara to deliver 5,000 culturally inspired items annually. Or let's look at another success story, Nay's Luxury Transfer, a transportation company on South Caicos that has grown steadily and is now expanding its fleet and creating new jobs. Ladies and gentlemen, these are just a few of the many success stories proving that with the right support, our people can build world-class enterprises. Beyond funding, though, InvestTCI has expanded its reach and support mechanisms through the Business Support Unit, the creation of an MSME retail space in Grand Turk to showcase local products, and the launch of the Youth Business Summit, which is cultivating the next generation of entrepreneurs. These initiatives are ensuring that our young people and small businesses are not only part of our economy's present, but drivers of its future. At the same time, we recognize that domestic investment still represents a small share of our overall project pipeline. About 1.6%, and that obviously depends on how it is defined. It's significantly more than that if the many expatriate investors who've been here for a long time, who've reinvested their profits in the economy, that number will obviously be significantly more than that. But in terms of some of the new initiatives in the MSME program, it's about 1.6%. And this is precisely why the government launched what we call the new Heritage Turks and Caicos Islander Investment Incentive Policy. You see, the Encouragement of Development Act was put in place in 1972. And the focus was purely on direct foreign investment at the time. TCI is becoming a fast-growing and far more sophisticated economy. And of course, we need to change the legislation, taking into consideration the need for inclusive growth and societal synergy. So This policy requires at least 51% local ownership for qualifying projects and offers enhanced concessions to empower our people to invest and build intergenerational wealth while removing barriers like the former 10-year retention rule on condo and apartment developments. Parallel to this milestone, as InvestTCI marks the 10th year anniversary of driving private sector growth and supporting entrepreneurship, the government has been complementing these efforts with record levels of public investment. Not enough, but certainly some, and the intention is to continue to increase the amount, because the one thing we need is major investment in infrastructure. And before the question is asked, my calculation is in the next 10 years, we will probably need around $750 million in investment in infrastructure to support private sector and public sector growth in these islands. And the money has to come from somewhere. So I'm not going to say yet where, but it has to come from somewhere. These investments include $26.5 million in South Dock Port, redevelopment, the construction of new schools, and that is an area where the social cost is growing rapidly. More than $6.5 million in road and, $8.5 million in road upgrades and strategic utility products, such as the new saltwater reverse osmosis plant in Grand Turk and upgrading the water distribution systems. Together, these public and private sector initiatives underscore how InvestTCI, the TCI decade of work, has facilitated sustainable growth, with the government reinforcing that progress through modern infrastructure, enhanced resilience, and improved competitiveness across the entire economy. And yet, as we define the next phase of growth, we must be more intentional in how we design and measure success. True success is multifaceted. It must reflect cultural and social well-being, environmental stewardship, and our collective capacity to observe new development without strain. In the case of Provo, we must do a better job of managing growth so that it empowers and not overwhelms our communities. You see, for too long, the emphasis has been weighed strictly toward foreign direct investment, with insufficient attention on building domestic industries and ensuring meaningful local impact. Moving forward, we must and we will carefully consider the carrying capacity of our economy and ensure that growth is both inclusive and sustainable, strengthening our people as much as our economy. As we look ahead, our vision is clear. We must diversify our economy, improve the ease of doing business. Yes, government recognizes that. And ensure that opportunities created through investment are accessible to all, especially our youth and small businesses. Investment is not simply about attracting capital only. It is about creating opportunities, building capacity, and ensuring that prosperity is shared. So, my government will be fearless in charting the next decade, not only by building ports, schools, and roads, by investing in our greatest assets, our people. Our ideas are boundless. Our ideas and our boundless entrepreneurial energy will fuel the future. The future under my government will not just be about development. It will be about transformation. Together with InvestTCI, we will position the Turks and Caicos as a model of innovation, resilience, and inclusive growth for all. The next decade is not something we will wait for. It is something that we are resolute in creating. So, congratulations. We have an amazing team of fairly young people driving InvestTCI. And they will tell you, on Monday, I did have a come to Jesus moment with them, right? Because service delivery is extremely important, right? While I'm proud of the work InvestTCI is doing, I'm sometimes referred to as a slave driver, so I will always ask for more. So congratulations, Angela and Tame. Congratulations to our chair. Congratulations to Clayton and Mr. Hall and my good friend Walter and the other public sector directors who are not here for doing a good job. I'll call your name deliberately so the people in this room can know who you are. So they will be expecting you to deliver. So congratulations on this milestone, and thank you to every partner, every stakeholder who has contributed to this moment and to this decade of progress. May the next 10 years bring even greater transformation for our islands and our people. Thank you. May God bless these Turks and Caicos Islands. Thank you.
Please stand as we welcome Her Excellency Acting Governor Anya Williams to bring remarks.
Good evening. Please be seated. I greet everyone present in your respective capacities, but would like to especially recognize our Honorable Premier, members of the Cabinet, the board, CEO, senior management, and team in Invest Turks and Caicos, as well as all persons present here this evening. First and foremost, congratulations to Invest Turks and Caicos on your 10-year anniversary. The Premier would have said earlier that, of course, this is a reiteration because previously we would have had TC Invest, but I want you to take it back a little bit further because how many of you remember when there was something called the Development Board? So that was many, many years before, and that was also under our current Premier, who was then Chief Minister. So certainly we have had some iteration of Invest Turks and Caicos for many decades here in Turks and Caicos. And the one thing that has remained consistent throughout is the role that Invest Turks and Caicos has played. We know that the primary goal is to attract investment into our islands and to facilitate that investment from start to finish in terms of the relevant government processes and making sure that we go from agreements to shovel in the ground to doors being opened. But the dynamics have changed in Turks and Caicos. They've changed in Turks and Caicos not only over the last decade, but even before that, but more so now. Many years ago, Turks and Caicos Islands, people didn't know we existed. We were heavy in the market seeking for investors to come to Turks and Caicos and to invest in our islands. We traveled all around the world promoting our islands, trying to get people to understand why they should invest in Turks and Caicos. Well, times have now changed. Because we're not the ones looking for investors. Investors are knocking down our doors. But in doing so, there's some important and fundamental questions that we have to ask. As we work towards Vision 2040, which seeks for the Turks and Caicos Islands to not only have a developed country status, but to have a scenario in Turks and Caicos where our citizens are able to enjoy the best quality of life, where every decision that we make is for the benefit of future generations to come. We have to ask ourselves some very important questions about investments in these islands. First of all, we have to think about sustainability. Whether the growth that we're experiencing right now is sustainable, whether development is sustainable, we have to also think about our environment. We know that the Turks and Caicos Islands has many great qualities, but some of them are sun, sand, and sea. And we have to think about how these investments are impacting our environment. Most importantly, we have to think about our people. Every investment decision that is made in these islands should be for the benefit of our people, and that has to be at the forefront of our decisions. So as we look at investment now going forward, we know that the requirements have changed. How many of us get tired of hearing the words about AML and FATCA and sanctions? And there are so many different requirements now that you have to look into when someone says, I want to invest in your islands. You have to make sure that you do the appropriate due diligence. You review the financials. You review every piece of documentation to ensure that you are making the right decision. But you always have to remember why you're doing it. We in the Turks and Caicos Islands, we want to see our islands continue to grow and to develop, but it has to be for the benefit of our people. And so as we continue to embark on this investment journey, I want everyone to be conscious that in everything we do, what must be at the forefront of that. I want to encourage the staff to continue to work hard, to thank you for the jobs that you do, because we know it isn't always easy, and to commit and promise to you that we will continue to work with you from a government and from a policy perspective to support you and helping to make the right investment decisions on behalf of the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands. Congratulations, and we look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Governor Anya Williams, for your insightful remarks. Okay, I promise this is going to be the last time I make you stand. Please stand as we receive Ms. Angela Musgrove, CEO of Invest TCI. Ms. Angela Musgrove has been at the forefront of driving growth, building partnerships, and creating opportunities that makes a difference. Please join me in welcoming our Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Angela Musgrove, as she presents the Invest TCI's impact.
Please be seated, everyone. I can't believe she made you stand for me. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I see we have a very diverse crowd with us, all vested in the development of the Turks and Caicos Islands. Allow me to adopt the protocol that has already been established and welcome the Honorable Acting Governor, Honorable Anya Williams, and of course, our Minister of Investment, Honorable Premier, and his lovely wife, all of the other members of the House of Parliament, our distinguished guests, our developers, government officials, small business entrepreneurs, of course, the Board of Invest Turks and Caicos, and the wonderful team and staff of Invest Turks and Caicos, the distinguished guests, thank you. And a pleasant good evening to all. Now I put on my glasses so I can see. This past summer, I stood in a room filled with brilliant young minds at our first Invest TCI Youth Business Summit. One group confidently pitched an idea to grow hydroponic greens. Another shared a plan for recycling. Yet another group impressed us with a dynamic proposal to improve public transportation in the Turks and Caicos Islands. The pride, the optimism, and creativity in their voices as they presented ideas for transformative businesses reminded me why Invest TCI exists. Because our work is not only about attracting foreign direct investment, but also about nurturing the next generation of innovators right here in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Today, as I present Invest TCI's annual report for 24-25, I'm not only sharing numbers and projects, I'm telling the story of how this agency has, over the last decade, helped to transform ideas into enterprises, and enterprises into engines of national development. Peter Drucker once said, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." That is exactly what Invest TCI has been doing for 10 years, helping to create a future that these islands can enjoy through investment innovation, and inclusion. This year carries with it special significance. It marks the 10th anniversary of InvestTCI, and our theme, celebrating a decade of innovation and impact, reflects both where we have come from and where we're going. Over the next few minutes, indulge me, I will share with you highlights from the past year, the impact of our first decade, and a glimpse of some exciting initiatives ahead. When InvestTCI was first established in 2015, our mandate was clear: to promote, attract, and facilitate sustainable investment for the benefit of the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands. In the decades since, we have seen that vision take shape. We have facilitated billions of dollars in foreign direct investment, supported hundreds of micro, small, and medium enterprise businesses, and helped create thousands of jobs, and you would have heard the Premier speak to that. Along the way, we've introduced the MSME program in 2016, the refurbishment policy, the revised national investment policy, and most recently, the Heritage TCI incentive policy. Each step designed to make investment not bigger, but fairer and more inclusive. This past year carried that momentum forward. On the foreign investment side, we signed 4 major development agreements valued at over, when I say past year, I'm talking about the past financial year, not year to date. 4 major development agreements valued at over $370 million, which those agreements in themselves are expected to deliver in excess of 400 new jobs. Our pipeline remains robust with 46 active projects worth close to $4 billion under management. Importantly, 3 refurbishment and reinvestment projects were also facilitated. For us, that's important because it continues to show that existing investors believe in the strength of the Turks and Caicos economy and its brand as they continue to improve their properties and expand existing enterprises. And I'm also proud to note that within our 10-year milestone, the Premier would have also mentioned, we executed the single largest investment project in our history, valued at $1.2 billion. The investment pipeline represents projects at different stages of development. 8% at the reinvestment stage. Existing investors are expanding operations. Active projects under aftercare account for 35% as major developments move steadily from agreement towards implementation. Refurbishment projects highlight efforts to keep existing properties competitive and aligned with global standards. Meanwhile, 31% represents prospects under negotiation, and another 25% represents early-stage opportunities that reflect the continued appetite of new investors who are still exploring the TCI market to make it home. Taken together, these projects illustrate immediate progress and long-term potential, with a balanced mix of reinvestment, active projects, and future opportunities to shape the next wave of economic growth. But these numbers, for us, are more than just statistics. Behind every approval is a story of determination. In our last year's AGM, we featured Island Organics as an example of what began as a small MSME grantee and grew into the first MSME business to secure a development agreement. And I see we have Ms. Saul with us tonight. We also highlighted Hamilton University, a pioneering local investment in education, demonstrating that diversification goes well beyond tourism. Let's see, we have Dr. Ewing with us. These successes embody why InvestTCI continues to thrive, to open pathways for both global investors and local innovators alike. In this year, these investments have advanced steadily, and we've added significant investments to our pipeline. 2 with executed development agreements, and another awaiting execution in the coming weeks. What I left out was that these are significant locally owned investment. What makes them significant is that The 3 that I spoke of are fully locally owned. A decade ago, there was not a single development agreement with full local ownership. At that time, such opportunities were often perceived as reserved for international developers. Today, that perception has been overturned, with Turks and Caicos Islanders demonstrating that they can lead major projects and they too can drive national development. On the small business side, it was our strongest year yet. We received 134 applications through our fully digital system and approved 89 MSMEs for support worth $1.9 million. Grand Turk applications rose by 140%, and South Caicos recorded its highest allocation of MSME grants ever. The fisheries sector alone received $1 million in new funding, with $965,000 of that being approved for disbursement and investment not just in entrepreneurs, but in food security and economic diversification. I think that deserves commendation. We also expanded our physical footprint this year by opening a new office in Grand Turk. This expansion ensures that small business owners in the capital have direct access to the same support as those in Providence Cialis. Alongside this, we launched our community pop-up series, bringing our services directly to South Caicos, Middle Caicos, North Caicos, and into the communities of Providence Cialis. Accessibility and equity are not just ideals, they are a part of how Invest Turks and Caicos operate. On the policy side, we saw the approval of the Heritage Turks and Caicos Islander Investment Policy that the Premier mentioned earlier. This is an important reform for us because it requires majority local ownership in designated projects. It sets a clear investment threshold and removes previously restrictive clauses that limited domestic participation in previous years. For the first time, Turks and Caicos Islanders have a stronger, fairer framework to lead in national development. We also we spoke in our last AGM about our ESG policy. We have advanced this policy. This framework will ensure that investments not only generate profits, but also uphold sustainability, social responsibility, and sound governance. ESG consultations have been completed, and when adopted, we anticipate that this policy will place TCI firmly among jurisdictions that demand responsible and forward-thinking investment. As we look to the future, it is not just about policies and projects on paper. It's about creating platforms, recognition, and linkages that will continue to unlock opportunities for entrepreneurs and investors. What excites me most is what is to come next. Sound. Okay, sorry.
Purchase is just one click away. Visit our MSME directory today. It's just a click that keeps the islands growing.
This year, we will launch the Small Business Directory, an online platform where MSMEs can showcase their products and services, tell their stories, and connect directly with foreign investors. It is designed to attract visitors to local businesses and encourage entrepreneurs to share their success stories. Technology ain't working with me today at all.
Looking for suppliers in TCI? From tourism services to agricultural producers and local manufacturers, your next local purchase is just one click away. Visit our MSME directory today. It's just a click that keeps the islands growing.
The stage is set. for the most prestigious celebration of micro, small, and medium enterprises. From bold ideas to lasting impact, the MSME Awards spotlight the businesses shaping tomorrow. Join us in celebrating the heart of enterprise.
We are also proud to host our second MSME Awards, a biannual event that recognizes innovation, resilience, and community impact. This is our chance to celebrate our entrepreneurs publicly, shining a spotlight on businesses that inspire us all, and raising awareness of the role they play in our economy.
Introducing Bridge TCI, building relationships, investing in development, and growing enterprises. Our focus is clear. Create TCI, Growsmart TCI, Blue TCI, Bridge TCI 2025. Together, we build the future.
We are also excited to be presenting our Bridge TCI Linkages program, which will connect our MSME with larger investors through sector clusters in creative industries, agriculture, and the blue economy. This initiative is about building meaningful linkages and ensuring that local businesses benefit from foreign direct investment. Finally, in a few short months, we will be opening our first space in Grand Turk where local entrepreneurs can showcase and sell their products. From handmade craft to locally grown goods, our storefront will be a dedicated space to increase small business visibility. These initiatives, Heritage TCI Policy, our Business Directory, MSME Awards, Bridge TCI, Linkages Program, our ESG Policy, Grand Turk Storefront, they're not just policies, they're not just initiatives. These are platforms that will amplify our entrepreneurs, celebrate their success, and create lasting partnerships with global investors. Together, they reflect our mission for the next decade to ensure that Turks and Caicos Islanders are not just participants in our economy, but leaders and beneficiaries of our growth. Looking ahead, the future is full of opportunity. In the coming year, we will launch our redesigned website, our new customer relationship management system to make services more seamless and transparent. We will operationalize our compliance tracking system to ensure agreements deliver on their promises. We will roll out an alternate financing pilot to expand access to capital for MSMEs. And we will complete a midpoint review of our strategic plan to ensure that our goals remain aligned with the national development agenda. As we celebrate a decade of impact, we know that our work is not finished because investment, as the Deputy Governor said, is not just about numbers, it's about people. It's about the MSMEs being able to see their products on shelves for the first time. It's about the student at the Youth Business Summit who now sees entrepreneurship as a future. It's about the confidence of local brands like Grace Bay Resorts, Heartland Group, The Lodgings, Do It Center, Gillies Enterprises, who consistently reinvest in our economy, and global brands like the Marriott, the Ritz Carlton, Palace Resorts, Waldorf Astoria, and those who choose TCI as their home. It's about the parallel confidence of Turks and Caicos Islanders, like Hamilton University, Island Organics, Island Mystique, proving that locals too can shape the nation's development. My esteemed colleagues, Invest TCI is not just about investment numbers or success stories. It's about the people behind them. So it would be remiss of me not to recognize the dedicated staff who work tirelessly to make all of this possible. In 10 years, we have moved from 13 to 21 staff. From our MSME team to our marketing team, our administrative team, legal advisor, investor services, our financial manager, I am backed by a phenomenal group of hardworking professionals that continuously push the excellence envelope. To each of you, I say thank you. Our work is also supported by a board that provides strong governance under the capable leadership of our chairman, our chairlady, Miss Ewing. Together, they ensure that the team stay focused and accountable. Often overlooked behind the scenes, I must mention, is our auxiliary staff who keeps our environment clean and hygienic for us every day, and our IT staff who ensures that our systems remain modern and reliant. Our private sector and public sector colleagues play an integral role in the investment process, and the collaboration remains the backbone of each investment project and success story. The teams at the Attorney General's Chambers, SPPD, DECR, Planning, Immigration, Housing, Ports Authority, I know I can leave somebody out, but that's okay, TCIAA, TCICC, the Ministry of Tourism, and of course, the Ministry of Finance, they're all essential to the success of each investment project, whether it's a major development or an MSME venture. I thank you for your continued support and for always responding to the call. I could stand here a little while longer, and I could talk about the billions of dollars in investment in the pipeline. I could talk about investment numbers, but to be quite honest, for me, it's more than numbers. What excites me most about this role is what the numbers represent: opportunity, confidence, and progress for our people. At the onset of my tenure as Chief Executive Officer of this brilliant organization, Premier Mizik made it clear that while foreign direct investment remains an economic pillar of the TCI economy, Invest Turks and Caicos must prioritize domestic investment so that the Turks and Caicos people can feel the true impact of FDI. And in his own words, he consistently reiterated that we must not be characterized as a shoebox economy. Invest TCI has heard the call, and we have responded. Thank you, Premier Mizik, for your continued vision and inspiration. Challenges are inevitable, and setbacks will occur. But the strength of Invest Turks and Caicos lies in its ability to pivot, adapt, and remain resilient. Our story is not one of obstacles, but of determination to deliver in spite of them. Ladies and gentlemen, 10 years ago, Invest TCI was a new institution with a bold mandate. Today, we are a trusted partner in national development. Tomorrow, with your continued collaboration, government, investors, and entrepreneurs alike, we will ensure that the next decade brings even greater innovation, inclusion, and impact. And so I close with this appeal. I invite each of you to join us as we build the next decade of investment in these islands. A decade defined not only by growth, but by shared prosperity for every Turks and Caicos Islander. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Madam CEO, for the insightful presentation, which clearly highlights the impact Invest TCI continues to make in shaping growth and opportunity for our nation. Because I've made you stand so many times, I feel like it's only fair that I give you something. So we have a prize giveaway. If you haven't received a raffle ticket, raise your hand. Okay, someone will come out and get you a ticket. Yeah, okay. Am I reading off these? Okay. It could be either one of these. Okay, this prize could possibly be dinner for two at the Strand or a spa experience at the Palm for two. So, if you don't mind standing on, I'm just kidding. Okay, if you're holding a ticket that has these numbers on it, you're one of our winners. So it's 200480. Anyone? Going. Please come to the front to collect your gift. Okay. Okay, the next number is 200516. Come on to the front. Thank you. As we celebrate the milestones, we invite you to join us in watching a short video that takes us through Invest TCI's 10 years in review, highlighting our journey and our impact.
One of the first things I did once I was a part of the 2012-2016 Rufus Ewing government as the Minister for Finance, Investment and Trade, I set out to re-establish Invest TCI.
The branch launch and networking reception for InvestTC took place on Wednesday, March 22nd. It's been 2 years since the opening of InvestTC. CEO John Rutherford said that last night's launch was about highlighting the rebranded InvestTC and to mark the end of a full operational year for the unit. Rutherford opened up about the newly branded InvestTC and the reason for rebranding.
Why did we do it? We had a brand before, we had a very nice image. But we didn't have a backstory. We didn't have a story about why we have this brand, what we're working to, what our beliefs are.
When persons think or speak about the economy of the Turks and Caicos, there's always a sharp focus on tourism. And rightfully so, because tourism, we know, hotels and accommodations and restaurants account for directly 39% of our GDP.
TCI is embarking on a new investment policy. And thanks to the hard work of the Invest TCI, we have been looking at it over and over because we want to make sure the policy is properly informed by the people who will have to use it.
We have our strapline where inspiration becomes reality. And this is all about what we are trying to do as an agency, to take ideas, to work with people who have ideas, and then take it through to the goal of delivering that and having something tangible at the end of it.
Really and truly, it's because of the passion that that the entire Invest TCI team brings to the table. Passion fuels purpose.
That vision stands stronger than ever. We've spent a decade elevating impact and accelerating growth.
We will now move into our panel discussion, where our distinguished guests will share their perspectives on the next horizon, catalyzing economic development through investment. Please join me in welcoming our panelists to the stage. the Honorable Charles Washington Mizik, Premier of the Turks and Caicos, Minister of Finance, Economic Development, Investment, and Trade. Honorable Dr. Ewing, Chairman and Director, Medinco Group, trained General Surgeon, Founder and Executive Chairman of the Hamilton Education Foundation, Project Lead, Hamilton University School of Medicine, and former Premier of the Turks and Caicos. Honorable Galmo Williams, CEO of Gillies Enterprises Limited, avid humanitarian, and former Premier of the Turks and Caicos. Mrs. Ariel Neely, Youth Leader, Career Advancement, and Program Coordinator. Mr. Drexwell Seymour, Moderator, Managing Partner of HLB, and author. And last but not least, our CEO, Ms. Angela Musgrove.
So the panel discussion is on the next horizon, catalyzing economic development through investment. We're going to focus on 4 themes: sustainable investment, local business growth, innovation and diversification, and collaboration for the future. And so we're going to talk about sustainable investment right now. And our first question, oh, by the way, after the panel discussion, there'll be an opportunity for you to ask questions, okay? To the Premier, what sectors should Turks and Caicos prioritize over the next decade to build a more sustainable and resilient economy?
Thanks for the question. I think Turks and Caicos Islands should focus on tourism. That is where it has its competitive and comparative advantage. And that's where it should focus. That is not to say that it shouldn't focus on other areas. I do believe that we have missed the boat in relationship to the financial services sector. We're not a first leader or even a second or third leader in that industry. However, I do believe there's still an area connected to international business that we could still target, and that has to do with the establishment of the Turks and Caicos Islands as an international arbitration center within our region. And that is why my government was very careful to ensure that constitutional provision was made for that. There are other areas as well that we can focus on that will help to create something that is other than a shoebox economy, which just means there's local money in the circulation in the community, because while tourism is our main industry, only what is retained in the local community really matters. Oh. Yeah. So I'll pause there for now.
All right, so we can keep it where we got it, right? Yeah. So this is now to Ms. Angela. How can Invest TCI attract investment that not only grows GDP, but strengthens our community? And I think you talked about it earlier, so can you elaborate on that for us, please?
I think one of the things that we need to ensure that we have is a strong legislative framework that allows us to be able to institutionalize certain things and mandate certain things that comes with an investment to ensure that the investment is sustainable. So apart from creating that policy framework for the country, there also needs to be that communication mechanism, and then, of course, enforcement and compliance. So we not only, put the framework in place, we ensure that developers are aware of the framework, and then we ensure that they abide by it. And I think that's one of the areas that we really need to strengthen and tighten in terms of ensuring that persons not only sign an agreement, but they also abide by and are compliant with that agreement.
You can elaborate more on the legislative framework?
Well, in terms, if we're talking about sustainability and we're talking about ensuring that we have sustainable investments, I think we can't leave it simply up to the investor to tell us, that the investment, we need to ensure that there are policies in place that allows us to mandate that there are certain things that are in place. And of course, we have acts now, not ordinances, that speaks to, environmental sustainability and things that need to be a part of your, for example, when you're doing your EIA, you pick up on those things that need to be strengthened through when you're building or constructing an investment. But how well do we manage ensuring that the investment is actually compliant with those things? So again, ensuring that the legislative frameworks that we have in place are properly managed and enforced, and where there are gaps, that we have frameworks that are there to fill those gaps, but more importantly, ensure that there is enforcement.
All right, the final question for this segment is to Honorable Ewing. He said we got 3 premiers up here. 3, well, yeah. Now, you're a local investor right now. So how can sustainable investment in education and healthcare create lasting value for the economy and, of course, the people of the Turks and Caicos from a local investment?
Well, thank you. I agree with the Premier with regards to tourism being a part of focus, but I will just like to also say that the human capital development is the cornerstone of sustainable investment, the cornerstone. And education and health are the linchpin of that human capital development. So if we really want to have a sustainable development of a country or people, we need to develop our people, educate them, and keep them healthy so that they can have greater productivity for the economy. We know that as a government, we have invested hundreds of millions of dollars in educating our people over the years, if not billions. We need to see how do we get a return on that investment. A lot of our people who we educate, some of them remain here, but as they go for higher and higher levels of education and specialization, those individuals will reside overseas if we do not create the environment locally that is conducive to them returning and contributing and participating in this economy. And I may be a little bit biased, but I'm saying what we're trying to do here at Hamilton University is creating that framework for individuals in the healthcare sector who were educated and trained as physicians and healthcare professionals, who are, I will give you some numbers. We have about 15 doctors overseas outside of Turks and Caicos who are working and who are in various levels of specialization. Will they come back? We don't know. Because they may be so super specialized that they may not be able to come back because we don't have the framework here and the environment to attract them back. So having institutions like Hamilton University and other educational institutions and creating the healthcare infrastructure to attract those individuals back should be our key focus of our investment in the healthcare sector and in the education sector. And this goes so for healthcare, but I'm sure the same could be said maybe for the legal profession and many other professions. We need to ask ourselves, we are investing in education, educating our people. Where are they going? Where are they now? When are we going to get the dividends? When are we going to get the capital gains of our investment in Turks and Caicos? So that's where we need to put a focus on our investments in healthcare.
Thank you. Very, very powerful. We got to put that into action now. We're going to focus now on the local business growth. And I'll address this question to Honorable Gilmore Williams. What strategies have helped you to remain competitive? And how can other entrepreneurs apply those strategies?
Thank you. And again, such a pleasure to be on this panel with such distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. You know, and before I answer your question, I'm thinking back 40 years plus, right? I really think first, 40 years ago, being a Turks Caicos Islander means something. It means opportunity. It means that if you are a Turks Caicos Islander, this certain business was just for Turks Caicos Islanders. And it really gives you a leg up, as they call it locally. And going forward to your question, I really think, and I heard all the great presentation, the forecast looks beautiful, the forecast looks great, but as a local and a Turks Caicos Islanders, we got to ask ourselves a question: what does it mean for us? What does it mean being a Turks Caicos Islanders? And I think a lot of us not looking for nothing for free. And that I don't necessarily, and I'm not a politician now, I don't believe in a fair playing field. I think being a Turks Caicos Islander, you have to have some leg up over a non-Turks Caicos Islander. So answering the question, going forward, I think the government has been intentional about creating opportunities, and not fair opportunities, but opportunities that give Turks Caicos Islanders the leg up.
Great. Well, the whole cabinet is here, so. The next question is to Ariel. Hi, Ariel.
Hello.
How can the voices of young people be better integrated? You know, the young people say they want to, what they say? What y'all say? Y'all want to sit at the table? That's what y'all like to say?
We want a seat, we want to chill, we want the entire furniture for the table.
Okay. So how can the voices of young people be better integrated in policies and initiatives that support local businesses?
So before I get to that answer, I wanted to respond to Dr. Rufus Ewing's statement about reinvestment and looking at where our investment is going as it relates to students. And one thing that the Ministry of Education has done is launch the National Internship and Apprenticeship Program. Now that program is to bridge the gap between formal education and gainful employment. Over the past 4 years, we've helped over 300 students, of which Invest TCI has been a partner, and the Office of the Premier has also been a partner with. And we've seen that with our apprentices, we have gained 59% of our apprentices has gained full-time employment with the partners assigned. So that's one way in which we are gaining reinvestment. Now, to answer your question, integration isn't just about listening. It's about measurement and accountability. If we want youth voices in policy, we need youth impact data. So this looks like how many people access financing, how many persons move from job seekers to business owners, how many policies directly improve youth economic participation. This can be tracked in a form of a Youth Economic Impact Index, updated annually. Beyond that, I see a future where young citizens don't just wait for investment, but become co-investors through community crowdfunding or pool capital funds that let everyday Turks and Caicos Islands, not just external funders, buy into local businesses. A couple years from now, when my generation is in charge, success won't be GDP alone. It'd be whether young people have real ownership in the economy they helped shape.
That's very good, because that should be success today as well. I totally agree with you. I'm back to the Premier. You know, a lot of people complain about the financial institutions. I don't know if are any financial institutions here? Anyway, they're watching us. How might the government encourage financial institutions to feel more confident in extending commercial loans to local businesses?
Before Gilly said he's no longer a politician, I am. Right? So when I came up here, my wife told me not to be too long. But I have to piggyback on a couple of statements. First of all, this whole sustainability issue, as it ties back to tourism, is so critical. That's why the government has invested in the development of a carrying capacity study, which we're now in the process of operationalizing, because the sustainability is multifaceted, as I said, environmental, cultural, social, and economic. I like to also say that as Turks and Caicos Islanders, we seem to have a fixation on the ability to touch our investment. That means brick and mortar. I think more and more we need to move into information and being able to go about our professional duties and still have a vehicle through which we can invest any disposable income that we may have. And so this government, before this term of office is ended, there will be a Turks and Caicos exchange that will be able to allow that to happen. And that is where everyone will have an opportunity to participate, including the ability to use self-financing, TCIG, infrastructure assets for local investment, so that there is a return to the country, but to individuals. We have to, and I think we are starting to remove away from this mindset that all the investment has to come from outside. The United States owe a huge amount of money, but most of it is owed but to its own citizens. So we have to start thinking that way. But back to the banks. Banks are in business to make money for their shareholders. And I think if we're looking to them to facilitate or to take risk, the only way the banks we can make it easier for them to invest in the locals is if the government assume the risk. And they're not going to take on the risk. Their shareholders are global, and their headquarters in Toronto or wherever it is, they have everything is measured at the same measuring metrics. So to the extent that the government could develop domestic institutions, one of the things that TCI has suffered from is it doesn't yet have capital formation institutions, and attempts to put them together have unfortunately been snuffed out. I think now we're on a trajectory to do that by building a credit union, by building a mortgage corporation, and these are the building blocks that's going to make the difference. Government will have to look at how it can provide partial guarantees for assist people with housing and other things. But again, we have to have a tax structure that is progressive, and the tax structure that we have is not progressive. Right? The guy in the audience who's taking home $1 million is only paying a national insurance and an NHIP, and if he has a jet, he's flying in his meat and his liquor, right? So we don't have a fair tax system. So we have to look at that, so that the funding is available to invest in improving the social conditions of the people. We need to improve the Human Development Index in TCI, because we brag about high GDP rates and even high GDP per capita rates, but when you go 2 blocks away from the beach, the situation doesn't add up. So, but as far as the banks is concerned, I don't think we should be looking to them to improve our conditions. They are in business to make money for their shareholders, and wherever they can find that money, they will. So we have to look at how we can build institutions, and we're starting to do them.
Okay. Well, I just want to make one comment on that because, you know, I interviewed the banks about this situation, and I'm telling you, not to defend the banks. The banks are saying that a lot of local businesses, they keep poor records. And because they keep poor records, they're not able to lend the money because the record keeping is poor. So I just want to put that in there, okay? I'm not saying it's true, but that's what the banks are saying.
That's a generalization.
It's not true.
All right.
That's a generalization, very generalization. A big generalization. So,
but if you need your records to be updated, you're welcome to come to HLB.
No, yeah, it does, but...
Okay, the next topic is innovation and diversification. This is for Ms. Angela Musgrove. What role can Invest TCI play in promoting the use of technology to improve the experience of investors in local businesses?
I think we have begun to look at how we can put in proper IT systems that allow investors to be able to have a more seamless experience. And when I say investors, I mean I look at our local investors in terms of our domestic MSMEs as well as our foreign direct investors. But how do we use technology to allow them to have a more seamless experience from application through to the facilitation process? And it means that we have to look at how we can automate, how we can digitize certain systems so that we have shorter response times, and also that you can have interaction that allows you to be able to see where your project is. I look for the status of your project. I envision a system that allows us to be able to do that. Allows the investor to be able to track his or her project through the Invest TCI and TCIG system. So the use of technology is something that is key towards creating an environment that is easier. And I was going to use the term the ease of doing business in the Turks and Caicos Islands. I think we can't do that unless we look at how we can digitize services and do away with a lot of the manual and duplicitous work that we see so predominant in our processes.
Okay, well maybe the Ministry of Innovation can help you. Okay, Ariel, from your perspective as a youth leader, how can innovation technology help young people build the skills and confidence they need to succeed in today's economy?
So as someone who's an advocate for SDG 8, which is decent work and economic growth, technology is powerful, but impact must be measurable. Imagine if every school graduate was not only tracked by test scores, but also their digital skills certifications earned, so coding, data literacy, AI. This tells us whether our youth are globally competitive. We can also launch a National Innovation Challenge Fund, where citizens can group fund youth tech ideas matched by private sector dollars. This means a young person having a startup in Middle Caicos isn't limited by geography, but can access both capital and mentorship. 20 years from now, I want to look back and see a generation not only confident in tech, but exporting innovation from TCI to the world.
Thank you. You come well prepared, huh?
I got my notes right here in front of me.
Back to Honorable Ewing. How do you think innovation can help strengthen relationships with investors and open new avenues for that? Because we always talk about diversification, right?
Yeah.
That's a household name, but we didn't say anything to it. But.
Well, innovation attracts the sophisticated investors. Yes, innovation and innovative products brings risk with it, but also it brings a competitive advantage. That's why it attracts the savvy or sophisticated investors. We, in Turks and Caicos, we need to look at those competitive advantage, look at the products that we're developing, and try to see how we could be more innovative in getting the competitive edge. That's why when it comes to things like we always talking about the green economy and the blue economy, but I'm really promoting the orange economy. And that's why when I look at Island Mystique and products like that, that promote our arts and culture, we are creating the competitive advantage within our tourism sector. Because persons coming to Turks and Caicos, if we really want to create a competitive product, create something different from what is offered elsewhere. I don't want to go to another country as a tourist to see the same thing that I see everywhere else. I need to be able to come to Turks and Caicos and see a product that is from North Caicos, that is from Grand Turks, Sorrel Key, Blue Hills, The Bight, right? We need to be able to conceptualize and create those very innovative ideas and products that we can sell, and people will buy them. People will buy into them. So if you really want to diversify our economy, it's not just diversification within tourism sector, but in other sectors as well. So I will leave that there, but I think I can go I can go a long way in this area of innovation because it's really keeping ahead of the game.
Thank you. I mean, I think people have great ideas, but some people are afraid to take the risk as well, and some people don't have the finances.
Yes,
So,
on that front, and I know that this is where government steps in, because when government sets their priority, if something is a priority to a government, then the government will find ways in where they can reduce the risk to the developer, but at the same time reduce the risk to some of the lenders. Because, yes, a lot of persons do not lend money because they look at it and say, oh, it's a risky project, it's new, I'm not going to put my money into it. So we need to find innovative ways. I mean, and recently I was engaging in many other, with other foreign countries in looking for how do you get financing. And when you look at most of the countries around the world who are sovereign nation, we are still a UK-dependent territory, will have investment where they have the export finance. So if there are citizens in those countries that want to develop a product that they could export, the government of that country will work with the local banks and they will guarantee the risk to lend to that local business to export products overseas. So exporting product is a priority to them, to that government. So if we can find the same kinds of priorities and help and work with the local banks to see how we can guarantee the risk, maybe we can find an avenue, a pathway to help increasing financing local development for local persons here in Turks and Caicos.
Thank you, thank you. So our final segment is on collaboration for the future, and we'll start with Honorable Premier. What role should the government play in creating the right environment for collaboration between the public and the private sector and with the next generation?
Yeah, well, first of all, TCI economy is modeled after the neoliberal economy of the United Kingdom and the United States, right? And so, to some extent, it has a private-public sector orientation with more emphasis on the private sector, right? When you look at certain, like the social democratic models in Scandinavia, it is different. They still have an active private sector, but also a very socially conscious political system. So somewhere, I think Turks and Caicos have to fit somewhere in the middle there, because at the same time, while the US and the United States have that neoliberal, particularly the United States, people are left to fend for themselves in a country which prides itself as being the richest country in the world. That is not the kind of economy that I want to lead, right? I want a genuine partnership with the private sector, one that floats all boat, and where the society itself, where growth is inclusive, and we can share the burden, share the risk. I think in a lot of models, including the one former Premier Ewing mentioned with the banks, the intention there would be to transfer the risk to the public sector, the local taxpayer. And we see what that has happened, what that did to the United States during the financial meltdown. So you create situations where entities become too big to fail. So somewhere in the middle there, I think the focus, particularly at this stage, TCIG's in the development of infrastructure, those that are generating, self-generating funding, those types of infrastructure can be developed collaboratively with the private sector. I mean, I can think of a few of them that we are working right now. And at the moment, I wouldn't announce them in here, but they will become public knowledge soon. So I think we have to collaborate with the private sector. They are in business to make a decent return. By the same token, the public needs to see the benefit as well. And so this is where not only innovation comes in, but also disruption, because in our construction sector, for example, we're still using very old methods. And anyone who comes up with a system that can disrupt those old methods and bring the cost of construction down are going to be the ones who are going to succeed. So that's just as an example.
So, so what do you think then? Why we couldn't get the collaboration for CED and TCI finance? It's supposed to be between the public and the private sector, but it doesn't seem that is working. We're getting the buy-in from the private, because once they hear government, they feel the government should do everything. There's no need for them to assist.
Well, there's something called corporate social responsibility. It could either be voluntary or it could be legislated. Once it's legislated, it no longer becomes a conscious effort. It becomes something that is required. And the one thing I think it would be unfortunate if the government has to introduce or legislate corporate social responsibility, because the next step to that would be taxation. So I would appeal to the business community to find ways to, and there are some of them in this very room who does an excellent job of living and has an active corporate responsibility agenda as part of their operation, but there are others who don't give anything back. There are givers in every economy, and then there are extractors. So depending on how many extractors we have as opposed to the number of people that give, I wouldn't want a situation where we have to impose legislation to force social corporate responsibility, but if it comes to that, then we will have to do so. I don't know why. I don't know why. I mean, including the banks, the very banks we talk about, those are the ones who came to the table and said that they would have contributed towards CED, and we haven't gotten a red cent out of them, right? So I don't know if it's at this stage with these remote operated branch banks where it's really worth the energy.
Okay. All right. Stop. Good feedback. They're watching. All right, Ms. Musgrove, Mrs. Musgrove. How can Invest TCI foster, we're talking about collaboration, greater collaboration between investors, the local businesses, and government to ensure development benefits, all stakeholders?
Mr. Simon, that's a really good question, and I'm going to piggyback on something the Premier said. We really do not want to get to a stage where we have to mandate or force an investor to be able to give or to become, a more integral part of the community building initiatives that we need in this country. So again, through collaboration would be, something that we speak to and we encourage. And I don't want to say that we get to a point where, again, we put it in legislation, but I do think that we should have some, policy guidelines that allows them to be able to have some measure of what our expectations are. And I think that's one of the areas that we can strengthen in terms of, stating clearly what we expect of them, and then following up it so that they're able to follow through. Sometimes we assume that, they should know that these are things that can be done or should be done as part of their corporate social responsibility. But I think one of the things that we can do better is, simply stating and being clear about the expectations. When you invest, these are things that we expect. And as the Premier rightly said, once we state that, we don't want to legislate it, but, we want to see it being done willingly.
I mean, I must say the internship program that Ariel talked about I think it's a very good collaboration.
It is.
Between
Yes, it
the
is.
public and the private sector. So, Honorable Ewing.
But just to highlight the point I made earlier, once upon a time there was a requirement for social program as a quid pro quo for concessions, scholarships, and community projects like roads. And the reason why that was stopped because the headache was not commensurate to the commitment. In a lot of cases, those developers who sign up to provide those social benefits never delivered.
But I must say, I really think the government has to be bold and unapologetic and stating things very clearly. You're not welcome, we're not doing business with you unless. And I think as a country, honestly, at our stage, we're giving more than we're receiving. It has to be intentional from the government side of it and bold. Any investors come to our country and say, listen, here's ABC, tax islanders, locals must be a part of some way, somehow. 20, 30 years ago, investors went out of their way, and I see quite a few in the rooms, went out of their way to bring us along. Now investors going out of their way to push us up further, and government giving more, we're giving more. So I think we have to be bold and unapologetic, and we have not been doing that, and we have not been that way.
Very good. I think you already answered your question then, right?
Yes.
That's good. You want to comment anymore? That's very good. Very good.
No, I am the premier cousin, and so when something's on my mind, I say it. And it's not about me. Yeah. I mean, I am at that age, but when all these other young Turks Islanders coming up, the playing field is so unlevel and so unfair. Every opportunity, investors getting the benefit and taking the opportunity and pushing us away. And I think the government has to be bold and say, listen, we're not going to do business with you. You're not welcome here unless you cannot bring Turks Caicos Islanders along. And I'm not saying go and pick them, but be bold about it. And we as a government hasn't been bold about what do we expect from investors when they come to our country. Bold locally and nationally. Talk about it.
At the end of the day, we should all benefit. So, Okay, so, Honorable Ewing, what role should the private sector and the community play in ensuring collaboration that leads to inclusive and sustainable growth?
Well, I'll just jump into the same discussion because we know that government sets the legal framework, all right? Government sets the framework for how anything's going to operate, and the private sector participate, finance, fund, along with the community. And I heard the Premier when he mentioned earlier about why things like the scholarships was discontinued. Yes, because there are two reasons why. One, it was difficult to collect. Two, and there was no mechanism for it to collect because everything was being deposited to the consolidated fund. There is no siloed fund or for those funds to be made too. We are not a tax jurisdiction, so we cannot encourage private sector contribution by incentivizing it. So, but what we are doing, we are giving them concessions. So if we reach to a stage in our development where we don't really need to go out and encourage foreign direct investment so much, then we need to look at, okay, how much do we need to incentivize you to develop here? You're coming for business. You're making money, right? So I think we need to see how we can leverage our diverse concessions that we give or don't give to encouraging persons to be better corporate citizens and exhibiting social responsibility and accountability. Otherwise, it will not happen. But for you to have a sustainable development in a country, it must take the PPP. I'm not talking about the usual PPP, public-private partnerships as a unit working together in delivering and creating sustainable development within our economy. So if that's not going to happen, we are going to have significant challenges like what the Premier Williams is talking about, where developers come and take and leave, and then our people are pushed aside and are not empowered, right? So I am so happy that we have Investor. I am proud of this Turks and Caicos agency because I know that they have within their heart to empower Turks and Caicos Islanders to develop and grow and become entrepreneurs, grow their business, generate generational wealth. So government needs to continue to work with them and support them in creating the legal framework so that they can do that, right? So instead of having encouragement of development ordinance or foreign direct development ordinance, we need to look at the local development ordinance. Local development investment, and put the concessions there that you create a playing field that is uneven, but tilted towards the local investors, right? So that is what we need to do.
I was saying that I think we've made a first step with that.
Yes, you have.
We have made a first step. We've just.
I'm of the boldness.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Premier Williams. Sorry. The Turks and Caicos Islanders Heritage Investment Policy speaks directly to that. It speaks directly to incentivizing our local investors. So I think that is the first bold step that we have made, because we have a policy that speaks solely to local investors and incentivizing local investment, and that the name itself speaks to that, the TCI Heritage Investment Policy.
Yeah, so I know that we keep talking about like out of 500 million, but we gotta be bold. I mean, it's like the 50, 75, 50, 25. There's some business that gotta be exclusive for us. And that's why I talk about boldness.
I agree with you. Ariel, Honorable, you have anything else to say, Gumbo? You have anything else? You're on a roll. Okay. All right. Ariel, how can young leaders work together and collaborate with makers to ensure their voices help shape the future? And you say work together. I think not only young leaders, we need to find out how we all can work together. So since you're a young person like me, share with us.
Trust. Trust is important, and especially for the young people, you can say whatever it is that you want to say, but we need receipts. We need to see where you're saying, like, put your money where your mouth is, essentially. Okay. We need to see that you guys are doing actually what you said you're going to do. We need to see the numbers. Where is the data? And I think with me visiting to the United Nations this year and speaking about the NEIP program, they focus mainly on data. So when it comes to private and public relationships, there needs to be there needs to be something that talks about youth impact scorecards, especially with the private sector. How many young people have they hired? What managerial positions, leadership roles they hold, mentored, trained, funded each year. If we can measure how many concessions we've been giving out, we can measure youth investment and contributions. Years from now, trust won't be whether you are invited to meetings or panel discussions like this or begging to have a seat or even a leg at the table. It will be about young people actually being co-owned and co-directors of the economy with the private sector.
Good answer, good answer. Great, very good. We've come to the end of our panel discussion. You know, I just hope this is more than a discussion. I hope we walk away, you know, with actions, and a year from now we can say this will be discussed last year, and here's what happened now. So at this time, we're going to open the floor for questions. Just 2 questions?
The panelists will take 2 questions from the audience.
Each panel will take 2? Each person? I'm just kidding. I know.
Got to manage time, I guess.
Questions? I know y'all want to say something. Y'all don't have to be afraid, you know.
Only 2. Who can choose those 2?
You have a question? Come in.
Good evening. I don't want to take away anyone's opportunity to raise a question, so I don't think that we should count my comment as to take away from the other 2 persons in the audience. But I just want to say one thing, which is something I've said before to a previous InvestTC AGM, and that is that I believe knowledge is power, and I believe that a lot of people, a lot of Turks and Caicos Islanders do not know the opportunities that are available to them. When you look at the MSME program, a few years ago, remember, we were struggling to spend even a few hundreds of thousands of dollars from that program because persons weren't applying. And we've done much better over the years now because now we're seeing more persons willing to participate in that program. But that program provides direct seed funding to local entrepreneurs that want to engage in a wide range of businesses. And I know sometimes persons become frustrated very easily because I know I've encouraged many persons to apply under that program. And some of them have been quiet, and then they've come back and I've said, how were you successful? And they said, oh no, they told me I needed a business plan, and I didn't have a business plan. But then they provide assistance, technical assistance in helping you to get a business plan in terms of preparing your accounts and so on. And so there's some things that you have to do to prepare yourself for the opportunity. I will admit that government isn't the best at sometimes selling its story, because a lot of what has been discussed tonight, I believe that a lot of persons are not aware that we have a heritage policy. They're not aware of the provisions under that. That policy allows Turks and Caicos Islanders, even if you pool your investments together, that you can get up to 100% duty concessions. So that's 100% duty concessions on customs duties. That means you can get waivers on stamp duty. I know that in cabinet, we spent, I believe, maybe it was 5 cabinets actually reviewing the business licensing ordinance. And under the new business licensing ordinance and policy, I probably can say safely, maybe about 75% of businesses perhaps now are under that reserve and other categories. And that existed previously too. There were a significant number of businesses that were in the reserve category. But the challenge with that is that, when I said earlier, knowledge is power and knowing your rights, a number of Turks Islanders, although it says that Turks Islanders had to own 51% of those businesses, and on paper, it said that Turks Islanders own 51% of those businesses, those Turks Islanders were not exerting their rights and influence on those companies. Because what was happening is that they were engaging in partnerships with businesses, and some person, their partner would, for example, provide them with seed funding at the beginning, or annually they may provide them with a payment during the year, but they're not actively engaging in their rights in those businesses. And so what I'm saying is that if we're agitating that there needs to be more businesses in the reserve category, then Turks Islanders have to not only know their rights, but exercise those rights by taking a rightful decisions and being active participants in those businesses, because I believe that is key. But as I said again, as I said before, I believe knowledge is power, and there still has to be more that we have to let persons know about what opportunities are available to them, what concessions are available, what rights they have, and how we are looking to encourage more local investment in the islands.
Thank you. And I think for the record, I think InvestTCI now has in-house business planners, so you don't have to go outside. So, yeah. Questions?
One more question?
No, she said 2. She said she's not a question, she's a comment.
Good evening, everyone. So sitting here, I've heard a lot of the income that is coming in, this great growth that is going to happen and continue to happen in Turks and Caicos, right? Now, in this part of the hemisphere, the employment we don't have enough staff or people to meet this vast development that is coming, right? So I would like to know, what are the plans that the government have for this development that is coming to make sure that the people of the country can meet, and not only meet, but exceed what is coming? Great initiative with the internship and apprenticeship program, but what are the plans for the people to make sure that they're not left behind with these billions of dollars and contracts that are signed for new development? I mean, the premier.
Yeah, okay. Well, let me say this. I'll leverage from what the DG had to say, right? Because I thank you to DG for making that clarifying, because there's a whole plethora of new policies that have been put in place. And it's not 51%, it's actually 60-40, right, as a part of, and I know someone said some businesses should be 100%, but you also said, highlighted a problem of funding. So sometimes you have to build alliances with someone who has the funding. If the bank is not going to get it to you, and your grandma don't have it to give you, right, so it has to come from somewhere. So there's something practical about these things, right? If you're controlling at 60%, someone brings in 40% of the capital, or maybe even 100%, but there's structures that can be made that would still allow you to retain the 60% of the corporation, controlling interest. Right? That having been said, right, there is a policy that will probably be circulated literally within a week or two that speaks to concessions. We have over $4 billion worth of investment in the pipeline. We just passed approve a carrying capacity policy, a study. So essentially what has to happen for new development at this stage in Providenciales is the concession has to now go away. There has to be a period of stabilization in Provo, where any major investor coming here now has to internalize all of the cost related to that project, including all of the infrastructure cost, right? That's a policy that will be discussed with the public, right? But I don't think you can be bolder than that, right? Unless you want to just stop the development and say, well, we're not going to accept you, period. But there has to be moderation. We're not going to say there'll be no more development. We will decide what kind and what we're going to give in return. And what we're contemplating is not providing any further concessions. You can come, but you come at your expense. When Dr. Ewing and I came in office in 2012, we fought for over 3 years, or probably 4 years, to get the Ritz Carlton built, right? Okay? And there are people in the audience who oppose the 12th story, right? Okay? And so leadership is without easy answers, right? Those were the days when we were wishing we would have investors. Now we have them. Okay? But we have to be careful how we deal with the investment climate. We have to make it easy to do business. We have to have smart policies, right? But we can't have policies that are going to repel people, right, and send them somewhere else. There are lots of empty beaches across the world, right? Beautiful beaches across the world with nobody on them, right? And so we have to create a balance, right? We have to be open and welcoming, but also we're not going to give you the key to our bedroom, right? Right? Okay? Now, as it relates to the major projects that are coming, every project that are coming has an obligation to not only, and we've been speaking to some of them, not only to provide housing for the expatriate staff, but also to provide housing for the staff that may come in from South Caicos or North Caicos or Grand Turk, right? We are also making available funding to support housing for Turks and Caicos Islanders. TCIG has been doing a lot to empower belongers. Every Turks and Caicos Islander who is a voter has $500 to their credit once the credit union is established. Every one of them, right? Okay. We set aside money to set up a mortgage corporation. We'll be working with the private sector and other agencies to raise additional money to provide so that persons, Turks and Caicos Islanders, have access to credit in order to be able to own a home. We're educating our people, and we will be working on ensuring that we have an employer-government relationship that would require persons or individuals or companies to hire and to train Turks and Caicos Islanders. The Constitution provides for positive discrimination in the favor of Turks and Caicos Islanders, and we are moving in that direction. Right? And that's one of the reasons why we are freezing or making it, extracting more from new developments going forward, is to ensure that we can reserve and conserve our tax dollars to be able to support social development, including the human capital development and TCI. There's a slew of policies that will probably upset some people, and I hope some of the same people in this room, right, when it's announced, don't be the same people on social media complaining, okay, because it's coming. It has to come, but we have to create balance, right? I remember I was living in Jamaica in the 70s when Michael Manley said, if you don't like what's happening in Jamaica, Air Jamaica have 5 flights a day, right? Okay, and people took Air Jamaica and flew up and laughed. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure we get our pound of flesh, right? And people who are genuine, who wants to let down their bucket with us and be integrated and contribute and grow this economy also have an opportunity without stealing from the government or from Turks and Caicos Islanders. That's the balance that I'm looking for.
One more question.
Thank you to our panelists for such an engaging discussion. Exchange of ideas.
Shut up, Drex.
Reflects the spirit of collaboration and progress. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to invite Ms. Judith Garland, Head of Legal, to present the Developers Award.
Everyone, permit me to stand on the existing protocols, and I'll ask my colleague Yam McCartney to join me here as we ease into our final segment for the evening. And this follows very appropriately from the discussion. At our 2003 annual general meeting, you would have heard about ESG, the concept of social, environment, social, and governance. And we emphasize the importance of integrating these principles into development projects. We recognize that developers have a critical role in shaping not just the economy, but our communities and the environment as well. Since then, we have begun developing a policy framework to support ESG implementation. Yet, even without a formal framework, some developers have consistently demonstrated a deep commitment to uplifting our communities and protecting the environment. Tonight, we celebrate those who have gone beyond commercial success to deliver real social, environmental, and cultural values. Our awards honor developers who lead with responsibility, inclusivity, and impact, setting standards for what sustainable development should really look like in the Turks and Caicos Islanders. And before we announce the nominees, I want to acknowledge the tremendous effort that each nominee participant put into their submissions in the short time provided. The projects we reviewed were truly exemplary, from innovative recycling and composting programs to initiatives eliminating single-use plastics, to landscaping with indigenous vegetation. Some resorts have removed completely away from exotic vegetation and move into indigenous local vegetation. A number of resorts have invested heavily in renewable energy and retrofitting with energy-saving devices. The level of support to our schools and local charities have been immeasurable and constant. These efforts demonstrate leadership, vision, and a shared dedication to building a better future. And with that, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the nominees for Community Impact Award and Sustainability Trailblazer Award.
And the nominees are Solterra Resort and Spa, Beaches Turks and Caicos, The Hartling Group, Waterloo Investment Holdings Limited, Grace Bay Resorts.
And the winner for Community Impact Award goes to Beaches, Turks and Caicos. Thank you. And tonight's winner for the Sustainability Trailblazer is Grace Bay Resorts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Judith and Director McCartney. Next, we would like to invite Mr. Andrew Hall, valued board member and birthday gentleman, to present the Staff Award. This is a 5-year service award presented to Cheryl McLaughlin, Investment Services Executive. Thank you. Thank you for your many valuable contributions over the past 5 years. Your loyal and dedicated service played an integral part in our success. Let's have another hand for Cheryl. As we bring our program to a close, it is my honor to invite our Deputy Chair, Mr. Walter Gardner, to deliver the vote of thanks and closing remarks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I submit to the already established protocol, and as a good board member, I always listen to my CEO, so I want to extend a happy birthday to Mr. Hall. On behalf of the Board of Directors of Invest Turks and Caicos, it is my distinct honor to extend a heartfelt gratitude to everyone who made this annual general meeting a rounding success. First, I want to thank our chairperson, Ms. Cindy Ewing, for skillfully guiding us through the evening's program with grace, clarity, and attention to the clock. To Ms. Judith Grenier, thank you for invoking God's presence with our opening prayer. And to my goddaughter, Ms. Krishana Williams, for a stirring rendition of our national song, which reminded us of the pride and unity that we must continue to strive for in these beautiful Turks and Caicos Islands. We are greatly grateful for the Honorable Premier Charles Washington Missick for sharing his vision and reaffirming the government's commitment to transferring the Turks and Caicos Islands from a one-dimensional or shoebox economy into an innovative, inclusive economy that is firmly anchored in development that is spearheaded by locals. We also extend our sincere thanks to Her Excellency, Acting Governor Anya Williams, for her steadfast support over the years and for her invaluable remarks to focus on the empowerment of our people. A special thank you goes out to our CEO, Ms. Angela Musgrove, for her powerful presentation. The Invest TCI impact. Your words not only highlighted our achievements, but also reinforce our mandate to increase development opportunities for Indigenous Turks and Caicos Islanders. You have truly inspired us, and we look forward to exciting and innovative initiatives that you have on the horizon. We were deeply enriched by the insights of our distinguished panelists this evening. Where else can you go in the Caribbean and find 3 either current or past premiers? In fact, by the way that they spoke, I think a couple of them want to come back. So the Honorable Charles Washington Missick, Honorable Dr. Rufus Ewing, and Honorable Gelmo Williams, as well as Ms. Neely and Ms. Musgrove, thank you. And it was all done under the thoughtful moderation of Mr. Drexel Steamer. Your perspectives reminded us that sustainable investment, innovation, and diversification, as well as collaboration with young Turks and Caicos Islanders and giving them a leg up, are the key to fostering a prosperous and resilient future in these islands. And of course, an event of this magnitude could not have been executed without the hard-working and diligent teams. With that in mind, I wish to extend a sincere thanks to the Invest TCI's marketing team, the event organizers, Ms. Rachel Campbell and Ms. Siobhan Williams. The Developer Awards Committee, led by Ms. Judith Garland, the protocol team, the SBC events team, our friends at Got You Covered, Out of the Box, and last but certainly not least, the ladies and gentlemen of the Ritz Carlton, Turks and Caicos. Thank you all for ensuring that tonight's program was executed seamlessly and with excellence. To my fellow board members, I extend a heartfelt appreciation for your hard work, dedication, and unwavering commitment to the agency and its mission. And finally, to each of you, our stakeholders, investors, community leaders, and friends, thank you for your presence and continued support. Your engagement is vital to the mission of Invest Turks and Caicos and to the economic transformation of our islands. As we close, let us leave here renewed in purpose and united in vision to catalyze economic development that not only attracts investment, but also uplifts every citizen and residents of these beautiful islands. Together, we are building a stronger, more sustainable, and better Turks and Caicos. May God bless you, and may God bless these beautiful by nature Turks and Caicos Islands. Thank you and have a good evening.
The 4th Annual General Meeting of Invest Turks and Caicos is hereby adjourned.